So I mean, I pretty much saw growing up. I saw every film that came out in the 80s, at least especially Indian films, mainstream Indian cinema. There used to be a theater very close to where I grew up, and every afternoon, I mean, my family had a very strong film viewing culture, and all the women in the, the aunts and everybody in the family would just bundle me off right from childhood, along with them to watch every film that came out. So I saw everything. I mean, cinema was just like a part of my life. But my view of cinema changed dramatically when I discovered the cinema Satyajit Ray. Um, I must have been 16 or 17 when I first read his biography, Inner Eye by Andrew Robinson, and it dramatically dawned upon me the filmmaker, the aspect of a filmmaker, and his role in cinema hit me like a like a large rock. And because till then I was just a consumer of cinema, and now suddenly I could see a master and how he influenced the stories he wanted to tell and how he wanted to tell it, and that had a profound impact on me. So I primarily, I mean, as I said, Satyajit Ray, I wanted to be a film maker, director always, and I mean, and wanted. Obviously, I was very highly influenced by Satyajit Ray, and the fact that he had a mastery over every department of filmmaking, whether it was illustrating, art, screenplay, writing, music, operated the camera through most of his later days, um, art direction. So I wanted to like learn every aspect of filmmaking, and the first and the most obvious thing that you think of as a director is the camera. So because that's sort of your relationship with an audience and with your story. My uncle was a documentary filmmaker. He had a 16 millimeter camera lying at home, and I remember from a pretty early age I just found myself every boring afternoon just putting on a lens and just not rolling, not shooting anything, but just walking through through the house using the camera as a viewfinder. And I almost feel that way back then, I mean, this must have been at age 16, 17. I never clicked any images. I never used the still camera, but I used this 16 millimeter. It was an Eclair NPR turret mount 16 millimeter camera, and I remember just spending hours and hours just looking through it and walking through the house and just like doing little moves. And so it just, I mean, I don't know, I mean, for as long as I can remember, the camera has been a part of my body. Well, I mean, I grew up in Delhi, so it's slightly more remote, and the environment I grew up was more documentary filmmaking. Uh, so I read a lot. I read a humongous amounts, everything I could get. Every manual I could read, every American cinematographer issue I could get, and those are, we're talking about 30 years back, when there's no Google, there's no information is very difficult. So you have to really hunt down a particular camera manual or a particular lab sort of procedure. You really hunt for months and months, and you find some material on it. I tried to get into FTI when I took it more seriously. I thought I should go to FTI to learn. First, I mean, first year I applied in direction. I tried twice actually, didn't get in. Then second year I thought maybe I'll try in cinematography. Didn't get in either. And by which time I almost started sort of directing small things for television, and then just went from one thing to another. Yeah, I tried. I tried a lot to assist somebody or the other. I mean, I remember. I mean, I'm talking about late '90s when I came to Bombay, and I spoke to Kiran Devans then. but somehow, those were the days when, I think the DOPs were really very sought after, and they were king, because there was a really small percentage of DOPs right at the top, and everybody wanted to be on their bandwagon. So all top DPs at that time had 8 or 10 assistants, and it was very difficult to break into anybody's team. So I tried to. As I met and spoke to Kiran Devans a few times. Didn't work out. Then I met Vikas Sivaram. He was ruling the roost then, and he also had like a team that was quite full. Somehow managed one day to sort of, I met Ravi K. He was shooting a film called Snip, and I was doing the making of, and I asked him whether I could come and assist him, and he said, "Yeah, okay, come." So I went the next day, and I didn't enjoy the process of assisting because I just found myself very useless picking up a thermocol or running around with a light. Because I had read enough, I had shot enough. Even as an independent cameraman working in television, I had already shot a lot myself. And I was very interested, and I was intuitive, and I could walk into a set and just see where the camera is, what lens is, what aperture is, what the key is, what the fill is. I would just basically come and stand behind a camera, and I'd know what this lighting setup is. And I found it a little frustrating to be able to then try to spend 3 years or 4 years running around with a thermocol like a headless chicken. And I felt I spent only one day assisting Ravi sir. And then I just felt that I'd be better off just pursuing my own. Even if I shot on digibeta or beta, I'd still learn more every day I shot myself rather than assisting. And also, more than anything, I'd be able to explore my own and develop my own style. Because I won't like I do. I didn't train under a particular style of lighting, of a style of cameraman. Because what happens is, I feel the biggest drawback with assisting is, and I see that in a lot of my assistants also, first you spend 2 to 3 years learning what the cameraman, your boss is doing, and then once you finally understood what he's doing, it's time for you to start doing your own thing, and then now you have to spend another 2 to 3 years unlearning what you learned from him, because only when you unlearn what you learned can you really go out and explore your own style. So I feel, while for the industry it's a good system, it's a system that works, it gives everybody confidence. But I mean, I've had so many young cameramen coming out of film school, coming to me, asking me to assist, asking that if they can assist me, and my advice to them is, don't waste your time. Just you've gone to film school, you know the rudiments of cinematography. You have to just keep shooting yourself. Even if you just pick up a camera and shoot every day something, you're more chances that you'll crack something. You'll become a better cinematographer on your own film set than on somebody else's film set. So I'm not a great advocate of this assisting thing. Though of course, I mean, it does help in a way that you get to know how the industry functions, and maybe it's easier for you to get breaks. But I mean, I didn't follow that system, and I still managed to do a few things. So I'm not a great fan of the assisting system. I mean, I was shooting a lot of television by the time I came to. I mean, because I had I thought I always had an affinity to the camera. So every time, I mean, initial days was Betacam. It's very fiddled with a few things, fiddled with parameters. You look at a monitor, you know what you're shooting. You play around with aperture, you play around with a few lights here and there. You will crack it, if you have a basic sense of cinema, you will crack it. So when I came to Bombay, just out of, I mean, even though I didn't really want to be a cinematographer, but I ended up shooting for a few friends here and there who were doing television shows, and it's just a question of one thing led to another, and I started becoming more ambitious I never had I mean, when I was age 20, I didn't have any ambition as a cinematographer. I had a lot of ambition as a director. But soon I found myself getting sucked into the camera, because the camera seemed to come very naturally to me. It just was a flow. It just spoke through me, and I just kept shooting. And it's just a, I shot something, and then somebody asked somebody who shot this, and then I got a bigger job, and then a bigger job, and a bigger job, and a bigger job, till somebody saw some promo I shot, and then Ken Ghosh offered me his first film, Ishq Vishk. And then, yeah, I just kept getting work. So I mean, I pretty much learned. I mean, I kept learning as I shot, and I suppose I didn't blotch up anything so bad that people didn't call me. I don't know. Something should speak to me about from the script. Something. It could just be a character. It could just be. It could also sometimes just be the milieu. Like for me, where a film is set can be can just click. Sometimes it could just be the director, like sometimes it's just filmmaking is almost like a collaborative journey, that it's almost like an adventure, creative adventure, that people intense creative adventure that people go on with each other. And as I've gotten older, I've learned that it's somehow more about people than anything else. It's about just, do you want to spend um, do you want to spend an intense amount of time, a very intense relationship with somebody who you don't like, or you don't, there's something about the somebody that clicks, I mean. And my some of my most intense and longest collaborations have been about just clicking on a mental level, rather than just cinematic ideas, because cinema is a journey that we take and we explore, but something intuitively you click with a guy, and there's a director, and you want to go on this adventure with him. I think the director DOP relationship is probably one of the most amazing relationships in the universe, because it's almost like two people, going on this very intense journey and prodding each other to jump off the cliff, and yet one person's always there to hold the other person, and that's the adventure, and that's where the excitement comes in. And that's it. That's life. I think it is fundamentally intuitive. I mean, can you learn batting, or can you learn fast bowling? You can learn the skills, but somewhere there has to be intuition. I mean, it's not a cinematography is not a life necessity. Like, cooking food is a necessity in life. Being able to clean your house is a necessity. Being able to interact socially is a necessity. Cinematography is not a life necessity. I mean, in the last 10 years, suddenly with everybody being armed with a camera and the phone, suddenly photography is suddenly becoming a life necessity. But it's not really a life necessity. It's just, you don't you can not do it and still get by life very well. So the reason that you want to do it there must be something within you that is, uh, you know, something should be talking through you in images. Like I remember very intense periods of my life where I just saw the world in rectangles. I just saw frames. I just constantly saw frames around me, and I was just trying to put, like, I had this very strong urge. It's waned a bit now, but I used to have this very strong urge to put everybody in a rectangle. That is intuitively for me. It's just how my brain sees. It's also how your consciousness. A lot of people have consciousness with their breath, but I could, from a very early stage, I started feeling conscious of light. Your consciousness, you're constantly aware of light in a very acute way. So I don't know. And then cinema. I mean, at the end of it, it's cinema. I mean, what really drives me is cinema, is films, and cinematography is just an aspect of it. I mean, and a very important aspect. But I don't know. You can hone cinematography. You can be ambitious, but I think fundamentally it's intuitive. It has to be intuitive. I mean, a lot of my, a lot of the great cinematographers I know closely, they all pretty much agree with me on the fact that it cannot be studied. You know, how can you study? Like, you would just be regurgitating what other people have done. If you do it intuitively, you'll always be able to discover something that other people are not doing or not done, and that is what makes it exciting. Well, I am writing right now, so I don't know. I don't know in my latest. I'm shooting a lot of ads, so I don't know when. Let's see. Writing is a much slower, more lonely process, and you get stuck a lot of times, and then you start writing something very ambitious, and then 3 months later you put it on the back burner, thinking that okay, maybe you'll write something small. So I'm going through that process of what should I make next. I have some very ambitious ideas, but I'm not sure I should do that yet. So I don't know. I'm just exploring. Films, films. I see. Definitely films. Interviews. I mean, I still find my I find myself enormously charged every time I see find a old interview of Satyajit Ray or Martin Scorsese or um, even Gordon Willis or anybody connected to filmmaking. I mean, directors especially, and cinematographers also. I mean, I still find a lot of inspiration in the American Cinematographer magazine. Um, just leafing through it sort of excites me still. Like I said, I'm writing, and there's lots of ad films. Dream project, I don't know. Yeah, there's something I'm writing. There's some like a period, political period drama. That'll take some doing. So that'll take a lifetime. Oh, memorable Rwanda. Yeah, I remember during Sarkar, there was a time when I was shooting Sarkar one. We had we'd put Amitji character. He meets all the people in this little like a veranda in his Sarkar house, and just to make it a little bit more interesting and create some drama, I'd put this little like a trellis on top with like checkered sort of trellis. But I mean, the thing is that the sun path is such that direct sun never hit that particular spot till about 11:30 every morning, and we were, RGB wanted. I mean, all of us, Mr. Bachchan would turn up at 9 o'clock, and everybody would want to roll at 9 o'clock. So, so it was a very difficult. So now once I've set that sort of style, I wanted to follow it with every shot, every scene that was there. But due to scheduling, a lot of times we'd schedule a scene at 9 a.m. and the sun's not going to hit it till about 11:30. So, what I did is I rigged up a series of big, large reflector mirrors at such an angle that I could still sort of catch the sun at a certain particular point and punch it through the trellis. But no matter what you do, a mirror is such a fragile, flimsy thing that even the slightest wind is going to move the sort of source very strongly. So I remember this one take where very critical. I think the opening scene where I'm on an extreme close up of Amiji, and now the mirror. I put 10 guys holding it and locked it and did everything I could, but just even the minor vibration in the building would just shake it, and the because it was a long throw, the effect would be suddenly like a slightly violent kind of thing on Amitji's face. And I did one take which was great for performance, and G said, "Perfect, Amitji, moving on." And I just begged and pleaded with RGV. I said, "Sir, this is disaster. I mean, you know, you can see this reflector is moving." And he said, "Don't worry, Amit. I'll just put sound of a moving tree, and people think it's a tree." And I was like appalled. I was like, "No, no, my career is gone. How can, anybody will see it and laugh at me?" And much to my surprise, when the film came out, one friend of mine, she called me and she said, "Oh wow, blah blah blah." And she said, "No, and I so really loved the way in that scene there was this tree moving, shadow on him," and I'm like, "Oh God, yeah, she was right." So that's like one big blunder which I really, that day I was so depressed, thinking, "Oh my God, I just messed up this beautiful close up," and then somebody compliments me on my mistake. So, that's some good, happy accidents. Yeah, just shoot as much as you can and don't stick around. I mean, even if you're assisting somebody, I mean, there are two reasons to be assisting somebody. One is to genuinely learn cinematography and just get a hang of how somebody is lighting and their style and all that. Or the other big motivation is to get the branding that you're his assistant. So, for instance, if you're, let's say today, if you're Sudip Chatterjee's assistant or Ravi K's assistant, there is a certain, the industry will give you a chance sooner. A lot of times, maybe I mean, Ravi sir is known to recommend a lot of his assistants. Every time there's a film that is offered to him and he can't shoot, he just passes it on to his sort of school. And so that could be one motivation. But still, then I just feel that you'll always be under the shadow of that person. So I'm an individualist, and I feel that if you want to have your own voice, then as much as possible, just shoot. And it's becoming so easier to shoot. Now you're shooting on this mobile phone. I'm not saying that I advocate that, but I mean, 20 years back, 25 years back, it was very difficult for any film student to, unless you put some money together, got some 16mm film, got a cheap camera, then you had to pay processing it. It was tough to actually practice your craft. But today, it's so easy to practice your craft. And I don't see, I mean, even if people, we want to assist anybody, don't just assist one guy. Just go to somebody's set for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, if you're intelligent, 1 to 2 weeks is enough to understand what somebody is doing. Beyond that, you are just a donkey running around the set. Honestly, then you're not using your brain, and then you're not thinking about what you want to bring to cinematography. Then you just become a tool for somebody else to further their art. And why would you want to do that? I mean, it's. So I mean, I actually, for the longest time, then what I used to do is I would just visit studios. When I realized that I don't want to get on the assist somebody, I would just visit studio, just walk into any film set, and you'll immediately, if you have any sense of anything, it'll take you 10 minutes to understand what the DP is doing, and that's all you need to know. Yeah, you walk into 10 different sets, you'll know this DP shooting like this DP shooting like this, DP shooting like this. That's all you need to accumulate, and then you just have to express yourself. That's it. This is what it's about. It is about what you want to say, not what others are doing. What book am I enjoying right now? Shit, I don't know what I'm reading right now. I'm not reading anything right now. Movie. There are quite a few films that I need to watch. I haven't watched Padmavati yet. Padmavat yet. My friend Sudeep shot. Um, I've been watching this series called Peaky Blinders. It's quite interesting the way it's shot. Uh, I'm watching a lot of series now, as opposed to just singular films, because there seems to be. It's quite interesting how they're managing to maintain such high standards of cinematography, especially in a lot of these series. Like for instance, House of Cards, I think, is shot incredibly. Game of Thrones is shot incredibly. Peaky Blinders, I think, like in the last at least a year, 2 years. I think that's the most startling work I've seen cinematographically. Edgy, very edgy, and with that kind of production values. I love the way the Black Mirror series is shot. It's very interesting, very edgy. So yeah, there's so much. There's lots happening. There's lots happening out there, and I think Netflix is a big boon to everybody. I wish, I mean, it has, in the sense that, of course, I mean, it's important to have a sort of association that looks at cinematographers, but I just wish it was but I also know that it's very difficult, and it's sitting here and passing judgment of what WICA should be doing, because the problem with our profession is that the the most of us who are really doing a lot of work and have something very strongly to contribute don't find the time to do it, and everybody is very selfish with their own cinematography, and I wish we would give a little bit more back. As cinematographers, I wish we could do more for the community, and I feel that I feel what is really lacking, and we've tried to do this as friends. Maybe 10 of us get together and talk about cinematography, but I just feel that it's not good enough if some of the senior cinematographers hang over a drink and talk about cinematography. I think it's important to be able to share with the next generation what we know. We and there then we would be contributing more to cinematography. I just feel that it's still a bit of a dog eat dog world, and um, we need to be able to create. I mean, and probably WICA can possibly do that, and I don't know how, but we need to create more platforms of interaction where I don't see I don't see like WICA should have a very strong program. I feel that that young cinematographers who can't necessarily get into FTI or SRFTI can still do workshops. Can like I'll be any of our friends. I mean, if there are 10 students, who are able to visit an apprentice or just spend even 2 weeks with the cinematographer uh, in a cyclical sort of rotation manner, it could help. It could really help everybody understand. So I think that's where we're lacking. That's where we're lacking, and we're all guilty of it. It's not about WICA as a body or anything. I mean, WICA is from us, so WICA will or is what we make it to be or what we seek it to be. So maybe I feel that we need to do more. We need to do more for our community.